This is the Season Long Podcast in support of the YouTube channel SeasonLongBaller. Happy to have you with us. Hope you're having a wonderful day. And let's take a look at what happened last week. Now, of course, yesterday, game one of the NBA playoffs, Wizards were taking on, well, we'll talk about that in just a moment. So before we get to yesterday's game, yesterday's opponent, let's find out what happened in the play-in tournament that happened most of last week. Now, it all kicked off on Tuesday, and here were your seedings in case you do not remember. 7 was the Heat out in the East. 7 was the Miami Heat. 8 was the Indiana Pacers. The 9 seed was Brooklyn, and 10 was Toronto. Out West, it was 7, 8, 9, and 10, Blazers, Lakers, Suns, and Jazz. So we'll start off with the East since that's where we are actually looking at. And remember, we did the Simcast live. We sped it up a little bit, so the games were around roughly 10 minutes. And we watched the simulation, and the players were represented by little coins. You can see that down in the description below on our YouTube channel. So the first game was the 7-8 matchup in the East for us, and that was the Miami Heat against the Indiana Pacers. And the Miami Heat ran away with this one. This was an epically bad game for the Indiana Pacers. And let me explain. The Pacers only scored 21 points. Now, we do play 6-minute quarters on SeasonLongBaller. And, of course, in the simulation, we kept that. We've been playing those 6-minute quarters all season long, all 82 games, 6-minute quarters. Okay, despite that, the Pacers only scored 21 points. That is epically bad. They scored 2 points, just one basket, 2 points. Or was it a basket? It may have been a pair of free throws. They scored 2 points in the first quarter. They did not score double digits in any quarter in the game. They scored 2, 6 in the second, 6 again in the third, and in the fourth quarter, only 7 points. So they ended up losing to the Heat 53-21. And this was pretty much now, Bam Adebayo led the way for the Heat with 11 points. But again, the big story here is how bad the Pacers were. Now, this was exemplified by Buddy Hield. He went 0 for 10 from the field, shot the ball more than any other Pacers. He was 0 for 10 from the field, and that included 0 for 5 from deep. So when you're only scoring 21 points, you know that your field goal percentage is very, very low. So the Heat shot 47% on 47 shots from the field. The Pacers only made 7 baskets total for the entire game. They did hit 5 3-pointers out of those 7 baskets, hit 2 free throws. So they were only 50% from the free throw line, and finished with 21 points on 18% shooting. They were 7 out of 40 from the field. That is just epically bad. And then to make it even worse, the starters only had 5 of those 21 points. The bench had 16 points. So again, this was not even close in terms of the game. And again, go back and watch that one on our Simcast Live. 53-21, and Simcast Live is a feature of NBA. One of the modes you can run on NBA 2K23, which is where we, of course, done this entire season. But 53-21 is your final score there, with the Heat defeating the Pacers in the 7-8 game. So as this format works, the loser of this game will now wait for the winner of 9-10. Miami is now the official 7 seed, and they will go ahead and advance to take on the Philadelphia 76ers, who is the 2 seed out east. And we'll talk about the overall seeding in both conferences in just a bit. Now, the 9-10 game out east was a much better game than that first one that we just talked about, than the Indiana-Miami game. And this was a 42-41 victory for the Brooklyn Nets, the 9 seed, over the 10 seed Toronto Raptors. The big story in this one, Pascal Siakam had 11 points after 3 quarters and did not play again for whatever reason, despite the game being very close and the Raptors closing it and even tying the game or taking a lead as the teams traded baskets late in the game. Siakam never came back in the game. And this is even worse or even magnified by the fact that OG Anunoby was injured. So he didn't play at all. Scotty Barnes was carrying the load at the end of the game, but he was only 3 out of 12 from the field overall. And him and Kevin Durant exchanged baskets at the end. The quintessential basket here ended up being a dunk on a drive by Kevin Durant that gave us the final score of 42-41. The Nets become the 9 seed. Neither team really shot well in this game. Again, the score is 42-41. The Nets only shot 36% from the field, and the Raptors only shot 34% from the field. The biggest difference probably here, the Raptors were 3 out of 15 from distance, so for just 20%. The Nets shot 43% from distance. So the Nets will advance to take on the Pacers for the 8th seed, and Toronto is eliminated out east. Now, swinging our attention back out west, where again our seeds were the Blazers, Lakers, Suns, and Jazz, 7, 8, 9, and 10 respectively. The 7-8 game was the Blazers and the Lakers with actually, I think I have that incorrectly. Let me flip that. So the Blazers were the 7 seed. The Blazers were the 8 seed. Lakers were the 7 seed. All right, so we've got that mixed up there. The Blazers were the 8 seed. Lakers were the 7 seed. Okay, so despite that, the Blazers, and I guess I'm getting ahead of myself, the Blazers won this game. That's why I'm thinking the Blazers were the 7 seed. The Blazers won this game 74-58 behind Jeremy Grant and Damian Lillard combining for 43 points to defeat the Lakers 74-58. The Lakers were led by LeBron James, of course. He shot 7 out of 9 from the field with 19 points. Anthony Davis had 18 points on 6 out of 9 from the field. But doomed in the first quarter, the Blazers outscored the Lakers 27-9 in the first quarter. That was the difference, and it was a 74-58 lead or 58 win for the Blazers. Both teams over 55%, or actually the 55 and above, as the Lakers shot 55% from the field, and the Blazers shot 59% from the field. So the Blazers advance. They are now the 7 seed. Lakers will wait for the winner of the Lakers will wait for the winner of the 9-10 game out west. And that 9-10 game was the Suns against the Jazz. A very close game here. Suns winning this game 45-43. And again, another game where an opponent only scored 2 points in the first quarter, and that was the Utah Jazz. However, unlike our earlier matchup between the Nets and the Pacers, the Suns themselves only scored 8 points in the quarter. They came back and scored only 8 points in the second quarter, while the Jazz scored 9. So you had a 16-11 halftime game. So the Jazz were not being blown out, despite the fact that they only scored 2 points in the first quarter. But the Jazz overall did not shoot well, only shooting 32% from the field. The Suns shot 41% from the field, and that was your difference basically here. As the Suns won 45-43, they will move to face the Lakers. The Jazz are now done. So swinging back east in our final play-in tournament game, Pacers-Nets. And I have to admit, I thought for sure the Pacers were going to win this game because there's no way in the world they were going to shoot 18% again from the field. And I ended up being right on this one, as the Pacers won 52-45. Buddy Hield had a much better game, not a great game, but a much better game, led the team in scoring with 13 points for the Pacers, 5 out of 13 from the field, and 3 out of 9 from distance, making him 3 out of 14 from deep in the 2 play-in games. So your result here with the 52-45 victory by the Pacers in Indiana, since the Nets were the 9 seed, the Pacers will travel to Washington and take on us, the 1 seed, the Wizards, who finished the season at 66-16. The Pacers finished at 41 up and 41 down. And that would be your seeding for the East, which we will talk about in just a bit. For the Nets, however, Ben Simmons was a surprise here. He had 20 points on 8 out of 11 shooting and basically paced the Nets here. Kyrie Irving was only 1 out of 7 from the field. Kevin Durant was 5 out of 13. But that was not enough, as the Nets only shot 37% from the field. The Pacers shot way better. They were basically on fire after the 18%, shooting 47% from the field. Pacers advance. Nets are done for the season. Out west in the final play-in tournament game, the Lakers hosting the Suns, and the Suns had another bad shooting game. Opened the first quarter with only 9 points, so again, single digits, and only scored 12. For the most part, their biggest quarter was 12 points in the fourth. However, that was not enough, as the Lakers destroyed the Suns 60-41. Suns again only shooting 33% from the field. The Lakers shooting 45% from the field. So the Lakers become the 8th seed and the Suns are eliminated. So that gets us to our actual playoffs now. And we will talk about this in just a moment with the Wizards facing off against the Indiana Pacers. And that is the 1-8 game. But taking a quick look at what else you had going on in the rest of the playoffs. So first of all, in the East, the Wizards are your 1 seed. They will be taking on the Indiana Pacers, who won their play-in tournament game there. Then the Philadelphia 76ers are your 2 seed. They will be taking on the Miami Heat, who won the 7-8 matchup against the Pacers, and they are the 7 seed. Your 3-6 matchup, Cleveland against the turned around Boston Celtics, who are the 6th seed. And I'm saying it right now, I think that's going to be the upset. I think Boston is going to beat Cleveland in this series here, and they are going to advance, considering that they are probably one of the hotter teams in the entire league after Jason Tatum came back from his injury, which I know you've heard me say several times. But if you're new to the channel, Season Long Baller, Jason Tatum got injured way back in October. Boston started losing a lot of games. He got an Achilles injury, and surprisingly enough, he returned from that before the end of the season. Once he returned, Celtics rallied, got back into the play-in position, and then got back into playoff position, avoiding the play-in altogether, finishing as the 6th seed. They will face Cleveland on the road. And again, I'm thinking Boston's going to upset Cleveland. Your 4-5 matchup, Atlanta against Chicago. If I'm looking at this objectively, I definitely want Chicago to win that series because Chicago, we beat them 4 straight times. As you know, with Atlanta, it was a slugfest and the series tied 2-2. So I would much rather see Chicago. But I think Atlanta's going to win that series, even though it is a 4-5 matchup. Out west, it's Memphis and the Lakers. That's your 1-8 matchup. Lakers, of course, winning against the Suns in the play-in tournament. Your 2-7 matchup is the LA Clippers against the Portland Trailblazers, who defeated the Lakers in the 7-8 matchup in the play-in tournament. Your 3-6 is Dallas against Sacramento. And as you know, Memphis, the Clippers, and Dallas all season out west in our simulation were battling for that top spot. And then the 4-5 matchup is Minnesota against Denver. Now, unlike the East, I don't have a whole bunch of crazy predictions, but I do have a feeling that the Western Conference Finals, well, when it's all said and done, I think it's going to be the 1 and the 2. I think it's going to be Memphis against the Clippers. We'll see if my prediction holds true there. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the Jaymont Summerz play of the week. And we only really have 1 game to choose from this week. And of course, that is yesterday's 1-8 matchup, opening round playoff game, Wizards against the Pacers. Halliburton against Summerz. I have a notion right now. Go screen and roll. Summerz drives and will 2-hand flush. Got there before Turner or Brissett were able to react. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about that Wizards-Pacers matchup. Game 1, Jaymont Summerz playoff debut. Wizards as the 1 seed and having home court advantage throughout the playoffs. And it starts off with a 61-47 victory for the Wizards. Remember, the Wizards defeated the Pacers all 4 matchups during the regular season. We opened on October 19th of last year against the Pacers. Opening night, Wizards won that game. The 2 teams played again just a few days later, the 5th game of the season. Wizards defeated the Pacers again. The 2 teams meet again in December, another Wizards victory, and then in February for the 4th time, despite the fact the teams are not division rivals, they did play 4 times. Wizards won all 4 matchups. So Pacers get another opportunity. Seems like we have played the Pacers more than 4 times, but believe me, it is only 4 times. And the Wizards get their 5th straight victory over the Pacers, 61-47. Jaymont Summerz led the way, only 5 out of 14 from the field, and an atrocious 1 out of 8. Let's not talk about that anymore from distance, but had 8 free throws, all connected. Summerz finished with 19 and 4 assists, and that led the way for the Wizards. Porzingis had 13 rebounds and went with the double-double here with 11 points and 13 rebounds in the victory for the Wizards. The Pacers were led by Buddy Hield, who was shooting a lot better than he did in the play-in tournament. 6 out of 9 from the field, 50% from deep, going 3 out of 6. He had 16, and that led the way for the Pacers. Tyrese Halliburton was only 5 out of 15 from the field, 1 out of 4 from deep. And I'm going to take a little credit on that since I, as Jaymont Summerz, am guarding Tyrese Halliburton. Now, remember, Jaymont Summerz is our NBA 2K23 player build and was the Rookie of the Year. So we're expecting, of course, we're hoping that we do well here in the playoffs. The Pacers only shot 33% from the field and only 20% from deep. The Wizards were still under 50% themselves, only 44% from the field, and 5 out of 20 from deep. And 8 of those 20 misses, 7 of those 20 misses belong to yours truly. So we will not talk about those anymore. So we'll take a real quick look at the playoff schedule for the Wizards for the rest of this week. Now, of course, game 1 was yesterday on Sunday, 61-47 victory for the Wizards. We will play again tomorrow, Pacers at Wizards, and we hope to see you there for that one. Game 3 will be on Friday as the two teams will travel to Indiana. That game will be on Friday as the Wizards will travel to Indianapolis and take on the Pacers. Game 4 will be on Sunday, the April 23rd. And again, that will be in Indianapolis. And if necessary, game 5 will be on Wednesday, April 26th. I am hoping that it doesn't go that far. All right, that's going to do it for yours truly, Season Long Baller. Thank you very much for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to see you again on the channel, Season Long Baller, when we play tomorrow against the Indiana Pacers, Game 2 of the opening round playoffs, 1 versus 8, Wizards against the Pacers. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for watching. Always remember to download. That really helps us a lot to download these podcasts. And that's going to do it for Season Long Baller.